without further ado, Mr. Charge Higher Prices, Scott Sorrell.
Hello and thank you in Albanian. That's just about the extent of what I learned this last week. But I'll tell you, it was a whirlwind. In fact, I gave Dan a scare. I texted him yesterday from the airport in Rome on my way back. Said, "Here's a picture of me in the airport in Rome. I'm on my way back. I've cut my trip short. I'll be there on time." And apparently he didn't receive the text till 5:30 this morning saying, "I'm in the airport at Rome." He said, "Okay, let's push Scott back till Wednesday." So, how many of us want to charge higher prices and get our customers to thank us for it? And the rest of us, we just want to give it away. A couple of us. Well, if you want to charge higher prices, you need to learn how to become more persuasive. You need to, I'm sorry, I'm a walker. Rand already warned me, said, "Scott, don't go past this point." So Rand, you gonna be able to pan with me if I forget? All right.
A couple of times.
Awesome. But you need to become more persuasive with your clients, persuasive with your prospects. You need to actually get them to perceive higher value because that raises WTP. WTP is an economic term for willingness to pay. And we want high willingness to pay, right? Now, I love medical technology. In fact, one thing that I really love and I've collected over the years, just as just a matter of humor, because I love to laugh, is old ads for medical products, medical claims, medical devices. And I thought, you know what better time to share some of my favorites than, of course, cocaine tooth drops for your children, because when they have, a toothache, there's no better cure I've found than giving Coke to your kids. And but since that has become just a little bit illegal, you may want to go, way to the opposite end of the spectrum, which is, of course, 7-Up. 7-Up for your babies. I mean, it's pure pleasure. It's pure. It's wholesome, as it says. And I thought, it's like mother's milk. I mean, what could be better than 7-Up? I mean, why even breastfeed anymore when you've got 7-Up available? Because it's just incredible. But if you want something in between, you're not quite up there for cocaine with your kids, but 7-Up's maybe a little tame. Hey, pour your kid a cold frosty mug of beer, because sharing a beer with your grandpa. That's the way to go when you're a little kid, and that's really going to take the like when I got a sore throat when I was little. My mom loved, I don't know if she loved it, but I loved it when she would mix bourbon and honey, and she'd say, "Oh, take this. This will coat your throat." I'm like, "Oh yeah." I got sore throats all the time, every week, 2-3 times a week. But my favorites aren't just these kind of claims for different ingesting products, but these devices, these mechanical things, like ladies, you love the electric corset, right? Dr. Scott's electric corset. Anybody up for that? I mean, come on, it helps your backaches. I mean, it cures every ailment. Now that's of course target market is the female segment, but to go all the way around to make sure that we're not leaving anybody out, we want to make sure that we've got a universal product like the recto rotor.
Oh, nice.
So anyone who has, for constipation and everything, the recto rotor is definitely the product for you. It's the way to go. It's tested. It's proven. And if you try this, it's the results are guaranteed. I'm not sure which results, but it's guaranteed to have some kind of results. So those are hopefully in this room we've upgraded just a little bit from that. But you know what? You never know. You never know. I talk to people with some kind of crazy ideas sometimes. Now, I work with a lot of companies, hardware, software, manufacturing, service-oriented, product-oriented. And it's all about getting customers to pay a higher price for your product, meaning you need to increase the perception of value on the part of your customer. Where's perception built? Where is value built? Here, in the mind. And that's what we need to work with, because all sales, all marketing is psychology. And so I'm going to share with you, I'm not just going to give you theory, I'm going to share with you some actual techniques for charging higher prices and getting your customers to thank you for it. Anybody up for real ground level techniques for walking out of here the next day, getting people to pay you more money? This will do it. Good, got some hands back there. I've got, matter of fact, I'm going to share with you a couple things that have revolutionized a number of businesses that I've worked with. So let's talk about a technique that I call raise the ceiling. If you have a $1,000 product to sell, what are you able to sell to your customers? It's not a trick question. Even though I'm also a professor at Cal State Fullerton, love trick questions, I'm not starting out with a trick question, okay? You have a $1,000 product, what are you able to sell to your customers? Right, a $1,000 product. Excellent, fantastic. If you have a $1,000 product, you can sell to your customers a $1,000 product. Bing, bing, bing. Now, if you now want to sell a $2,000 product to your customers, what do you need to add to your product lineup?
$2,000 product.
Okay, $2,000 product, right? Now that's where the trick question comes in because you're absolutely wrong. This is where I fool my students and they love me for it. If you now want to sell a $2,000 product to your customers, you need to add a $2,000 and a $3,000 product to your lineup because customers tend to gravitate to the middle of your price range. It's a bell curve. There's some folks who buy in the tails, but typically, you've got a normal curve, most will buy in the middle. This is research-based, study after study shows this. Matter of fact, the experience of my client companies show this. Now, that $3,000 product, where you've added all the bells and whistles, I mean the equivalent, you know, whatever in your product or service offering, it's the equivalent of an ice cream sundae with what? The whipped cream, the nuts, the cherry on top, the concierge red carpet service, the 24/7 cell phone to the CEO so you can get immediate, wake them up at 3 in the morning, get immediate response rate. That $3,000 product has a name. There's an economic term for that. The technical term for that $3,000 product is the decoy. It's the decoy. Now, what does a decoy do in real life? Okay, it actually attracts attention, right? I mean, if you've got a flock of ducks flying over the lake, what does it see? These two beautiful little ducks that are swimming down there peacefully. They say, "Oh my goodness, this is a wonderful, peaceful place to go," and they start heading down to the lake, right? We don't talk about what happens after that, but the decoy attracts attention. In this case, it attracts attention upward in your price range. Now, why do most customers gravitate to the middle? Well, they want the quality of the top product, but they can't afford the price. But they like the price of the bottom, but they don't like the quality of the bottom stripped product. So what do? They compromise, they settle for the middle product. Now, let me ask you this. If you just provide two purchase options, $1,000 and a $2,000 product, what do you think research shows is the result? Where do they buy? They buy at the bottom. Why? Because $2,000 is your price ceiling. And most people don't want to bump their head on your price ceiling. So what do? It's what I call raise the ceiling. That's why we put that $3,000 product in there to get them to purchase the $2,000 from you, and it overcomes that psychological barrier. This stuff works, and it works very, very well. Now, the higher you raise the ceiling, the more the middle moves. Because you can get that bell curve if you've got, say, a good, better, best, in this case, product selection. You want to move the middle. How do you move the middle upward in your price range? How do you get people to buy even higher? Okay, move the top and maybe do what? Maybe add a 4,000, maybe a 5,000, absolutely. Now, we have to be careful because if we start adding too many levels, what happens? Confusion, right? And a confused mind cannot decide. Confused mind cannot make a decision. You've heard this objection before, and I work with lots of sales teams all over the country, different parts of the world, on objection handling, right? And one of the favorite objections of customers is what? I have to think about it. Now, if you add too many levels, that becomes true. You've given them too many choices and they have to think about it. So you have to be careful. I mean, it gets to be like Baskin Robbins. You ever take, I've got 3 kids, they've all been on this stage. You ever take a 4-year-old to Baskin Robbins? Uh-huh. How long does it take to get out of there? Yeah, about 30, 45 minutes. Why? Because the kid can't decide between, the sprinkles ice cream, oh, this is the birthday confetti ice cream, I don't know. Oh my gosh, I mean, it takes forever. I learned that lesson early, and I found the solution. Neapolitan, chocolate, strawberry, vanilla, there you go, kid, right there at home. Dad, you're great, you're awesome, oh, you're amazing. Until about 8 years old, and they go, Dad, Neapolitan's horrible, what do you think, all my friends? I fooled them for like 4 or 5 years. But Neapolitan's good. But you don't want to give too many choices. Now, if you want to raise the ceiling past that point, then what's something you can do so as not to confuse them and not to give them too many options? What's that? Yes, yes, I know what you mean. Eliminate those bottom options and increase the top option, right? That's what we want to continue doing because actually that does a couple things. It niches us into a different customer segment oftentimes because it fires effectively the bottom end of our client base. And we should, whenever possible, be firing at least about the bottom 10% of our customer base every year. Why? Well, because we want to continue to increase quality, we want to raise our prices, and plus you're going to have folks that are chasing you that are doing the Me Too thing, and they're going to be providing knockoffs, especially if you're bottom end stuff. Let them sell to the bottom end. You stay ahead of the trend. Stay ahead of the trend, provide high quality at high price. Why? Because price equals quality, doesn't it? Or does it? Does price equal quality? What? It depends. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Typically, though, yes or no?
It should.
Yes. Typically, price does equal quality, which is why it's a heuristic, right? It's a rule of thumb. It's a mental shortcut that we take. Can you imagine if we had to do the analysis each time on every single thing we bought? Is it quality? We typically go with the fact that price is a signal to the marketplace of quality. It tells the marketplace, hey, we are a better quality product than brand X. Now, what are we going to do with that? Well, we're going to take these and do something else that's really fun, and that is take it from the top. Let me give you an example. Back in the 1970s, Sales Management Magazine ran an article, and they told about a billiards retailer. They sold pool tables. And this billiards retailer, every Sunday, they would run an ad in the back of the sports section. Now, there's a few of you that are like maybe under 30, a newspaper, maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. Think of an iPad made of wood. That's a newspaper. With the leaves on it, those are called pages. But you'd flip, a man would finish the sports section, he'd go to the back page, and what would he see? A full page ad advertising a $349 pool table. Wow, I can get a pool table for $349 bucks. So they'd run in waving the ad for the $349 pool table. And so management of this store told the sales reps, listen, we're going to do something this month. We're going to make an experiment. No matter who walks in, they can come in asking for a top-of-the-line pool table. You're going to, for the next 30 days, you're going to walk them over to the $349 loss leader pool table, which means they're losing money on that. They'll make money on the cue sticks and the balls, but $349 bucks, that's a loss leader. Then you're going to show them the $500 pool table, then the $1,000, then the $2,000, and finally the $3,000 deluxe slate top, Queen Anne legs, carved mahogany siding, gold fringe on the pockets, deluxe pool table. They added up all the sales for that month. They divided it by the number of transactions to find what is the average ticket price. What's the average sale? What's the average invoice? They added them all up, just about $550 was the average sale that month. Then they told the team, gather around. We're going to do the same thing, only opposite this month. They can come in waving that ad, $349 pool table. You're going to march them over to the $3,000 deluxe slate top, Queen Anne legs, carved mahogany siding, gold fringe on the pockets, deluxe pool table. Then you're going to show them the $2,000, then the $1,000, then the $500, and finally the stripped down, naked version, $349 loss leader pool table. Added up all the sales for the month, divide by the number of transactions. Average sale, just about $1,000. Almost double. Now let me ask you this. How much more salesmanship, how much more skill does it take to sell from the top down instead of the bottom up? That is not a rhetorical question. This is the audience participation portion. How much more salesmanship does it take? It takes none. None whatsoever. And yet, most of us, most sales reps, most of our sales teams, most of us representing our companies, we start with the base stripped down model and we start adding more and more things on until we get the point of resistance. At that point, we fight to make the sale. And yet, the opposite is what works. Let me give an example of why this works. Let's pretend, let's say, example I like to use is a copy machine. You've got an office equipment store, retail store, and we can extrapolate this to our med tech devices, face-to-face, B2B, B2C, whatever we're doing. But let's put it in terms of a copier. So someone walks in and says, "Hi, I want to get a business copier." You say, "Okay, love to show you a business copier. This is our copier. It's $1,000. Now, we do have a model here that also staples. This one folds, it collates. This one does color. This one, it does 500 copies, and then all the way to the deluxe docutivity center, right? Which does books in full color, and it puts out 1,000 a minute, and it's just crazy amazing for $10,000. Now here's what happens. Notice, the arrow changes from green to red as you're interacting with the customer. What do you start getting from the customer at the point where it turns from green to red? What?
Resistance.
Resistance. Exactly. Resistance. Why? The customer starts feeling what? Like they're being, they're being sold, they're being pushed, they're being, right. Now, nobody likes to be sold, but everybody loves to buy. Why do you think there's so many stores? Why do you think there's so many malls? Everyone loves to buy, but nobody likes being sold. When you start pushing and pushing more stuff, you get that resistance. And that becomes your green buying zone, I call it. It's at or near just before the point of resistance. So it hovers around the point of resistance and oftentimes a little bit before the point of resistance. That's where you make your sale. Now let's take a look at what happens when you do the opposite. When you do the opposite and you start with, the person comes in and says, "I need to buy a copier." You say, "I got a copier." And you walk them over to the docutivity center. I mean, it makes 1,000 books a minute. It's in full color. It staples. It dices. It slices. It makes hundreds of julienne fries, right? But wait, there's more. And they say, "That little too rich for my blood. What else do you got?" And you bring it all the way down toward the $1,000 product. Do you even ever get to the $1,000 product? No. Why? Notice, all the way down. What happens when that arrow changes from green to red? What are you getting from the customer? Resistance. Exactly. Resistance. Why?
They want it's cheapening. You're cheapening what they need.
Okay, you're cheapening what they
less.
need.
You're hurting one. The first one, you're hurting them because it costs more. Here, you're hurting them because you're taking quality away.
Yeah, you just used the right words. You're taking stuff away. And people don't like it when you take stuff away. And so you end up getting resistance, and this becomes your green buying zone at near or just before the point of resistance. Look at where that happens in both cases. It's fascinating how the human mind works. Now, I always teach how to charge higher prices and get your customers to thank you for it. The thank you for it part, there's several parts to it, meaning you want to deliver on what you've promised, definitely, over-deliver even. But another way to get them to thank you for it is when you buy, when you allow them to purchase. Because the best definition of professional selling I know is helping someone rationalize a decision that's good for them. And when you sell with the customer's best interest at heart, and I really mean that. I spent In fact, Sarah and I were talking about it earlier today. Sarah, the psychographics lady, just brilliant. And she has the same thing. Freedom and also purpose. I was still very purpose-driven. Big heart, want to help people. Slept on the floor of my office and warehouse for about 5 years because just giving everything away, the lowest price possible. But when you're wired that way, you got to learn this stuff. And over time, you can learn it. Because here's what happens. When you sell from the bottom up, people tend to settle for the basics. When you sell from the top down, they tend to demand the extras. I've analyzed this for a number of years, and I finally come to what I believe is the correct reason for why this happens. Because I like to know, why does this work? I do a lot of research in PhD studies in things like consumer behavior and psychophysiology and conversational linguistic analysis and for why people make decisions, and then use that in buying decision modules for my clients. And what I found is, for instance, my son, when he's 5 years old, he goes to kindergarten. He comes home one day and he says, "Dad, you know I'm the only kid in my class who's never been on an airplane." Come on, I know that can't be true. 30 kids, he's the only one? No. But what had he been doing? Talking to a few friends, and then what? He's comparing himself. Comparing. I didn't teach him to do this. I found that people are comparers by nature. And people will compare the first thing you showed them and hold that up as the standard by which they judge everything else you show them after that. So if you show them and you say, "This is a copier," now that's the definition of a copier. They say, "Okay, that's fine. That would work great." "Okay, yeah, maybe a couple of extras. Wait a minute, now you're pushing a bunch of junk on me I don't need." But if they come in and say, "Hey, I like a copier. Let me show you. Let me show you what a copier looks like." "Whoa, that's a copier." Now, as I start taking stuff away, it starts looking what? Less and less like a copier. People are comparers by nature, and they will use as a yardstick, as a standard, as a baseline, the first thing that you show them. That's true face-to-face. It's true on your website, the order in which you present your product. Even, I see them all on websites all the time, low price, middle price, high price. Do the opposite. People read from left to right in Western culture, so give it to them in that order. Show them the high price. Go, "Whoa, that's great. Oh, this." They don't even want to look at the third column by that time. Why? There's no check boxes. There's no check marks there, right? I don't want that thing. That even won't work. Proposals. When I submit my proposals in writing, right? You send over the PDF, that kind of thing, or however you submit it. I always put my high price first, an entire page, full. Let's say it's a one-pager, just full of all of the stuff they're going to get with the top line price. Wow, okay, that's a lot of cool stuff. The trainings and the keynote speeches, and then the coaching and the ride-alongs with their teams, and then on and on with all the stuff I'm going to do for them. Help them develop a sales manual, help them negotiate deals with clients, all kinds of stuff. And then the second page they turn to is what? Maybe there's half the stuff on there. They're going, "Oh, okay, this is." And by the time they get to the third page, there's like a couple little lines on there. It's like, what is it? Tear it out, throw it away. They don't even want it. And where do they select? They select either the top or the middle, typically. I don't have people select the bottom. And yet, if I did the opposite, I probably would find the opposite is true. They would be satisfied with the first thing that I showed them because they said, "Yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking for." "Oh, okay, there's one with a few more. No, this is too much." You understand the difference? There's this, again, it's all psychology, and you want to get them to make a decision that's going to be good for them. And here's the challenge. Most people, and when I say people, I mean people. You may say, "Well, I'm doing B2C sales." How many of us, come on, raise your hand. How many of us have ever sold to a company? How many of us have sold to a company? And now you think about it, and you go, "Oh, wait a minute. Have I ever sold to a company?" No. Who have you sold to?
People.
A person. person with emotions, a person with political aspirations within their organization, a person with having a good day, having a bad day, a person who needs a little rapport built with them, a little bit of encouragement. Absolutely, we sell to people. And what I find is if we allow our customers, our people, the people we're serving, to select too low in our price range, they end up with too little value. And let's say it's in the case of a product. Maybe they buy a piece of medical equipment from you. Maybe it's a $500,000 piece, but and maybe they had a $750, maybe they had $1 million version available, and they chose the 500 grand because you showed it to them first and it looked adequate. And then you get a call 6 months later because they realize they underpurchased. They realize it does not have all of the bells and whistles they really needed. And then what happens? They end up having to either mothball the thing or sell it on Craigslist or something or try to turn it back in. But then they have to end up buying the higher priced version from you. Now, how much has that low price cost them? It's because you did not have the professionalism to sell at a high price because you were afraid. And you also didn't know the order in which to present. So let's talk about this real quick. Let's put it to work. Just real quick before we get to that, I guess I've got a slide. I've identified more than 80 different techniques, methods, strategies for getting customers to pay more than they thought they were going to pay, but still be happy they did so. I'm sharing 2 or 3 of them with you today, but more than 80. And the reason that I have compiled these is because, as I said, early on in my career as an entrepreneur, I was sleeping on the floor. I did not have a place to live. I am now an adjunct professor at California State University, Fullerton, in the Mahalo College of Business and Economics in the marketing department. And when I first started my business, I was sneaking into the gym at Cal State Fullerton to take showers. And I was not a student. That was my life. I had no place to live. I had no shower. I was sneaking into happy hours at night, ordering a glass of milk and eating at the little buffet they would have. Because I did not know I charged such low prices, 50% down to about 10% of what my competitors were charging. Why? I'm very purpose-driven. I want to help people in the language of Sarah. I just want to give and give and give. My first master's work was in seminary. So I have a pastor's heart. I just want to help people and help people. And I don't care about the money. And when I got married and realized my wife didn't want to live on the floor of a warehouse. And then I started having to put this stuff into practice. So my corpus of knowledge is based on necessity, not because I'm such a great salesperson, a great business guru. I'm not. I'm not phenomenal. My material is exceptional. It's unbelievable because I have acquired it from so many different brilliant sources. Oh, a few of my clients, kind of stellar from a guy who was a philosophy major in college, seminary, doesn't know how to sell. But I learned it. And the reason I share that with you is because if I can learn these things, and I had no business mind whatsoever, then you in this room who are more wired for business, unbelievable results. You guys can take this through the roof. So now apparently my slide is, let's put it to the work. Before I share my last point with you, which is a real quick one, let's interact on this a little bit. How can you raise the ceiling, create a tiered price structure? How can you take it from the top in order to get your customers to buy at a higher price? Yes. You don't have an answer, you have a question. Okay? Okay, I'm going to need, I was looking for my glass of water, which is gone, but I'm going to need, can you stand up and speak up just a bit? Thank you.
Yeah, so I was wondering, I can see how this works on the product side, as a copier and the whole thing. In fact, I was allowing myself, my husband and I had to buy a bed, Sorrell with like a sleep number, and it was supposed to have a sale, and it was a total bait and switch situation. They didn't do your plan correctly. Anyway, how do you do the services side? Because, you sell a valuable service, and I just don't see how I could give my clients like 3 levels of service.
You don't see how you can give your clients 3 levels of service. Okay, I work with one of my clients is the largest law firm in the country in its particular space, and they do this. Clients that are CPAs. Matter of fact, funny story with CPA. I said, you need to double your fees. He said, if I double my fees, I'll lose half my clients. You're a CPA. Can you say more money in less time? Anyway, funny CPA story. But myself, what do I sell? I have no product. I sell a service. Companies hire me all the time on a service basis because I create, again, multiple packages to offer them. I mean, yes, sometimes they'll just need a keynote for a particular event. Well, I'll figure, okay, let me see. They need a keynote, but they don't realize at that same keynote, if I'm flying to New York for crying out loud, I might as well, I want to give, but at the same time, I want them to buy at a higher price. So what might I do? I'll say, well, you know what, here's my keynote rate, but what you might want to do is, well, here's the whole package. The entire day for the keynote, and you didn't realize you probably need a lunch and learn with your executives. And you may need a breakout session with a couple, with a group of your top sales reps, and then work your way down from there. So I will create packages for that particular situation. I mean, Genesis, you have a facility, a venue in which med tech companies can come and bring their doctors in and use and do training, right? Okay? You can do this. This is I mean, talk about a service. You've got, I mean, it's a place, but they just show up. Okay, what do we do? I mean, rent it by the hour, by the day? Hey, let's create some additional, oh, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's give it up for Rolf.
Festival of the day.
I don't know how much she's going to charge me for that afterwards. Well, to a full glass or a half a glass. So real quick, tell me about your business, and then everyone else will probably tell you exactly how to apply it if you're not seeing it.
Well, I can say we do programs that are custom to each client.
So you do, okay, programs, but what kind of programs? Oh, wait, you're, okay, you're the M&A, got it, okay.
The M&A is on the side.
Beautiful,
Primarily
beautiful.
just marketing.
Yeah.
But clients come to us with a challenge or something they want to achieve, and we're going to recommend to them, okay, this is the plan, this is how we propose to get there. And I'm struggling with, this is how we propose to get there versus, you know, okay, but it's going to take all these steps, except why can't we do less steps? I'm not going to get there, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm trying to achieve something, it's not good.
Right, I can guarantee that if we sat down and sort of unpack your business, there are things that are what we might call, if we made a list of, you know, kind of like our daily to-do list, and we categorize them A, B, and C. The must-dos, the should-dos, and the nice-to-dos, right? Same thing with working with clients. There are must-dos that will get you there. Might be a little more work for you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, and your team, because we're going to let your, you know, marketing department, we're going to let your accounting department, we're going to let your sales department, your HR department do some of these things internally. We're going to hand those off to you that we often do for our customers. But in other words, we've got the full package. We've got the, you know, kind of little more do-it-yourself packages, and then we've got, you know, where we can really make this work from a culture standpoint, where we can do the retreat, you know, at a local hotel. You know, what really works best is when we do it off-site, and we go to, you know, we go to Vail, or we go to, you know, Cancun, or we take all the executives so that we get in a place where it's totally neutral, where there's no business mindset. It unleashes our creativity. You see what I'm saying? There are many ways. She's smiling now. She's going, oh, okay. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, you can. I mean, you can create destination packages for crying out loud with your M&A consulting. So there are a number of different levels at which you can sell. And if you want to have coffee sometime, I'd love to do that with you. But so these are some ways that you can put this to work from a product standpoint as well as service. So let me give you my final little gift, which is I noticed about 10 years ago that guys like Newton, he had his own law. Einstein had a law. And I'm thinking, okay, laws of motion, relativity, what use are those to me? So I said, you know, I need a law. Newton, yeah, whatever. Einstein, come on, I'm just as smart as these guys. So Sorrell's first law of pricing was born. And Sorrell's first law of pricing is price doesn't matter if you have what customers think they need and can't get elsewhere. I have worked with many, many companies over the past 15 years and tested this and refined this. It didn't start in this exact form. And then finally it evolved, and this is the final form that everyone agrees on, and it works in every company, in every situation, services or products. Price does not matter if you have what customers think they need and can't get elsewhere. Now, the two operative conditions there are what? Yeah, they've got to think they need what you have to offer, and they have to believe they can't get it elsewhere. So those are some of the exercises that we have to do, and I work with client companies on how to do this, and we really unpack it. And I'll tell you, it really helps. When I took my first law, well, two questions. These are just, I want you to percolate down in your mind right now. These aren't things we're going to dwell on, but how can you make what you have something that the customer believes they need? How can you make customers think they need what you have? Second question is what? How can you make what you have impossible to get elsewhere? Because those are the two conditions that allow you to charge any price you want. Now, I've taken these and I've turned them into a matrix. I call it, of course, the Sorrell matrix. Why wouldn't I? Everyone has a law. Not everyone has a matrix. So I say, oh, I'll do the Sorrell matrix. Okay? It's not essential, it's essential, exclusive, and non-exclusive. Where do you want to be? You want to be in quadrant 2, because you can see the bold letters. Of course, I call this the Holy Grail quadrant. This is quadrant 2. In the Holy Grail quadrant, you can name your price, because you have a functional monopoly in this economy or any economy. Even when the economy goes down, you can name your price. And it's good to have a functional monopoly. And there are ways we work on that. There's whole sequences that I work with companies on doing what I call jumping the lines. Because when you identify where you are in these quadrants, we have to figure out, how do we jump the lines? How do we get from one quadrant to the next, and then ultimately to the Holy Grail quadrant, which is number 2, where you're both exclusive and essential, where they can't get it anywhere else, and they need what you have. Because when you've got both of those, you're good to go. We can't really go into that today. That's, a many hours long process, but I'll tell you, it does amazing things for pumping up the price and pumping up the willingness to pay on the part of your customers. So again, price doesn't matter if you have what customers think they need and can't get elsewhere. And that works whether you have a full body automated